Hey my friends, Joshua Ivey behind the wheel for Car Talk. Got my friend Louie Baker with me all the way up from Kentucky. And today we're thinking about God's will. How does an individual really know that they're walking in God's will, Lou?
Well, for one thing, it tells us that, the signs will follow those, that are in God and doing the things of God. So it don't say it'll lead you, it says it'll follow you. So when you're doing work for God, when you're doing the things you think you should be able to look back and see the hand of God at work in the things that you're doing, and see how He brings things together.
His stamp of approval.
His stamp of approval. And if you can look back at the things you've done and see God at work in those things, how He things don't operate by coincidence in the kingdom of God. If you look back and see divine appointment, divine providence, all these things working in your life, then God's with you, and He's giving you His approval. So one of the best ways actually of knowing, short of just hearing from the Lord say, do this, is when you look back and see His stamp of approval on what you've done.
And it's easy to tell a young person that's just getting out of high school that doesn't really know the direction that they want to go to as adults in a job career, tell them just take your basics and then you can decide from there.
Yes.
And it's kind of like the basic foundation of the faith walk. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 tells us to rejoice evermore. And it also says to pray without ceasing. It's easy to talk about the simple foundations of the faith walk, but to make it more personal, you can also say the Lord loves you to love mercy, and He loves for you to walk humbly before Him. This is God's will. And it's easy to talk about the basic foundation, but to make it a personal experience, there's just a peace that comes upon you when you know that you're walking in God's will.
Yes. And another aspect of that, we had read this morning about Paul and the shipwreck with all those people on it in Acts, I believe it was 27. And there's so many different perspectives of that story. We've talked about several of them, but one that I had thought about, I hadn't really mentioned, was that very thing that in those scriptures, the angel appeared to Paul and told him, don't worry, there's not going to be a loss of the life of anyone on the ship. Just the ship will be lost, but no lives will be lost. And said, because you have to appear before Caesar. See, Paul was right where he was supposed to be in the will of God at that time. And because they followed Paul in what Paul told them, then they were in safety also, because it was God's will for Paul to live and be delivered over to Caesar. So
there's a safety there in God's will.
Because they followed someone that was in the will of God, they too found safety. And I say that to say this: if you see a man of God that is called to a work, say a pastor that is called to open a church or something, anything that God would call someone to do, and you help them to do the will of God in their life, you'll be blessed also, because they're in the will of God, and there is blessing and safety and peace within the will of God. So even if it's not your specific call, but it's someone else's, and you're helping them to do what God has called them to do, you will receive blessing also.
And that's why Paul and Silas had so much peace in the dungeon, so to say, and kind of like that level in the prison that where the sepulchres was.
Yeah.
But they had peace, and at the midnight hour they prayed, just like the word says, to pray without ceasing. Yes. And they worshiped, and they seen the manifestation of God's presence. So today we're encouraging all of you to make sure that you are in the will of God.
Yes.
Because in the will of God there's great sturdiness, and you don't have to worry when you're in the will like you do when you're out of the will.
That's right.
Have a good day, everybody.
God bless.